Welcome to the SVG-TV Evening News for Tuesday, September 24th. I'm Khalil Kato with the details. More than 200 persons are to be affected by the construction of a new port in capital Kingstown, and public consultations have started with some of the persons in terms of resettlement. As we hear in this report by Larissa Pugsley-Kidd, the authorities are experiencing challenges as some persons are yet to come forward to claim structures in the area.
Edinburgh and Lomans are the two areas identified as relocation sites for persons living in the Rose Place area who will be affected by the construction of the new port in capital Kingstown. This is according to project coordinator of the Port Modernization Project, Lenski Douglas, who met with residents in Rose Place yesterday evening. The Port Modernization Project has a figure of 232 persons in their system who will be affected, which include vendors and the residents. At the consultation last evening, it was noted that Edinburgh will accommodate the FISHERFOLK community, while residents will occupy 6 acres of lands in Lomans.
They're accustomed to hearing, seeing, socializing on the beach. Now, we don't have any other location in St. Vincent, right, that we can place you back on a beach. And as a matter of fact, we can't move you from a vulnerable location and place you in another vulnerable location, right? Because currently with all of this surge here, I'm sure persons would have had some not so comfortable rest, let's say last night, and they may also be worried as to tonight with the level of surging that happened here. We also heard of the tsunami issues, right, where there would have been tsunami sensitization, and persons know that the beach is very vulnerable to tsunamis and so on.
Persons entitled to a payout have the option of cashing in on a full compensation package and relocate to a place of their choice, or accept the new relocation sites, Edinburgh or Lomans, where houses will be built for them. There will also be allowances for moving, relocation and other assistance, including the setting up of utilities. In addition, there will be an economic package if a job is lost, as well as skills training opportunities.
So we're hoping that the training that we can provide you, for the FISHERFOLK, it can be, let's say, seamanship training. For the kids, it could be certification level training and so on. This is a program that we will have as a part of the project to assist persons who are impacted to sort new opportunities in different areas.
A resettlement consultant from Canada, Nancy Luttinen, said they have carried out their assessments in the areas where the port will be built, and while they have made progress, they are faced with the issue of not locating owners of some structures, and emphasized the urgency to have the owners come forward.
The abandoned or unidentified structures are over 20, and this is my serious concern on this project, that we have too many unknown owners, and they have to be identified. The structures are double locked. Most of them are very, very small in size. The opinion of the valuation department is that those are storage sheds, that they are not houses, but we need to confirm each one of those. We can't gain access inside because they're triple locked, the ones that I showed in the photos.
The Caribbean Development Bank is funding the Port Modernization Project, and resettlements are being done with the bank's regulations and is also in keeping with the laws of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The construction of the new cargo port facility is expected to start by mid-next year. Reporting for SVG-TV News, Larissa Pugsley-Kidd.
Meanwhile, at yesterday's consultations, there were concerns as it relates to the relocation of the FISHERFOLK from Rose Place to Edinburgh. While most seemed to support the move, they, however, said they would like to see proper infrastructures and facilities put in place.
Edinburgh will be a better site because we have problems still going to Lomans Bay, where we have the Petro-Vilnic situation. Right? It will be a problem. So Edinburgh will be the better place. But in putting FISHERFOLKs in Edinburgh, FISHERFOLKs would like to have something properly done for protecting the fishing boats in them, not only for now, but long term. And saying so is something like a pun to put a sea defense from the water coming ashore in from we had yesterday, to protect the boats in them from being knocked on the rock, which will be inside, and we'll have to remove a lot of those reefs inside and make the place a nice liquor pond.
What I want to know is if Edinburgh have the space to hold all the fishing boats, and like in hurricane time, if you have space that they could pull the boat closer to the land.
A lot of the the persons who live in Rose Place connected to Atley Hall, and the possibility of a road Atley Hall to Lowman's gonna be a shorter connection than if now is that you're using the main road and go Camden Park and come back to the site that you're proposing in Lowman's. So I am suggesting that indirectly or direct, Atley Hall could be considered in the mix. If not the project, some other project, kind of take that into account so that you could have that connection, because one person's connect with Atley Hall already, and communication, if there's a road, will be an easier access.
The project coordinator, Lenski Douglas, assured the fisherfolk that they have plans to improve the situation in Edinburgh and will be taking their suggestions into consideration.
The obvious approach for our committee is to ensure that whatever we provide for the fisher folks can work, because what they have here is working, right? Based on previous consultations, there are a few things that would have been identified. One was just repeated by Mark. We need protection for the vessels. We not only need protection for the vessels, but we're going to need fuel for the vessels, right? And we're going to need the support facilities for the vessels, the repair, the small businesses, so that you can get your fish line, hook, and the other ancillary items that are associated with fishing. So we are mindful that currently the space would need some upgrades and adjustment and reconfiguration, and that's what our team will be working out in consultation with the fisher folks, right? Just to point out that we have we will be having a fisheries representative on our resettlement committee, right? And that individual, once known, hopefully in October, we should be able to let you know who that individual is, and that individual will bring that perspective that we may not have on fisheries.
The General Secretary of the Commercial, Technical and Allied Workers Union, Joseph Burns Bonadie, said Scotiabank will not exit the country until it honors the agreement it made with its employees. His comments come on the heels of reports that some workers at the bank have been engaged in a sick-out over the last 2 days over back pay for overtime work dating back to 2008. Bonadie explained to SVG-TV News that after the laws were updated in 2008, it provided protections to various categories of workers and regulated work hours, which included a lunch hour. He said it was discovered that for a number of years, some employees worked for 9 hours straight instead of 8 without a lunch hour, and as such, discussions were had to regularize the work hours to fit within the law and to compensate workers. Bonadie said a memorandum of understanding between the union and the bank recognizes the operation of the wage regulations order and agreed to pay the employees money owed to them for overtime and other entitlements prior to its official sale to the Republic Bank.
These employees will be compensated for these overtime hours of work by the bank in accordance with the application of the statute. The bank also acknowledges that some employees, based on the years of service, do not access applicable vacation leave entitlements, and that these employees will be compensated for those remaining outstanding entitlements by the bank in accordance with the application of the statute. The bank therefore undertakes to pay any outstanding amounts due to the employees by virtue of the foregoing, as soon as the outstanding matter in relation to the time frame for which these retroactive payments should apply is settled between the parties. In addition, the bank commits to the union to pay any outstanding amounts due to employees resulting from the foregoing prior to the official pending sale close date to Republic Bank.
The CTAWU General Secretary said as part of previous negotiations with the bank, the union agreed to accept a limit of retroactive payment of 6 to 7 years and nothing less.
With them, introduce the subject matter of a limitation period under the law. That money is owed and so on. They wanted to invoke the limitation clause, which says that you could only go back so many years. As General Secretary of the CTAWU, knowing the departure of Scotiabank, and under those circumstances, I told the bank that I will accept the limitation clause in this specific instance. And that limitation clause calls for payment retroactively for about either 6 or 7 years. It lies there. And that is what I will accept. Nothing less. The bank offered to pay from 2017 forward. So that means that they're not even looking at the limitation clause. So I give you in a nutshell all the facts surrounding this.
Bonadie said he was informed by the bank that the institution will be pulling out of the country by the end of October and was surprised when he heard the bank will be exiting at the end of this month. He is adamant that before doing so, the bank must make all outstanding payments to employees.
That at a staff meeting, the manager informed them that the bank will be exiting at the end of September. Remember, the HR head office called me to say they're exiting in October? And now we heard they're exiting in September. So, well, I ain't too worried about that, because we already signed that can't exit and name pay the people the money. So that is where the situation stands at the moment. I agreed to meet again with the bank based on some intervention on Wednesday. I have not had any response whether or not that meeting is going to be taking place, but I am on standby. No, but they said they're not leaving until everything is cleared, and the other bank already indicated to us they're not coming in with any liabilities in terms of staff costs and so on. But the other thing is that we have all agreed that all the employees presently at Scotiabank will be taken on by the new bank.
54-year-old Lawrence Dabriel, a farmer of Byra, is in police custody and assisting with investigations into an incident today which left another farmer in the area with a chop wound exposing his intestines. The victim, Michael Woods, is at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital, and up to news time, we were unable to get any information on his condition. Information on what led to the incident is also sketchy. However, we understand that Woods was returning from tethering his animals when he was reportedly attacked. Climate change continues to bring with it negative environmental effects, and as such, a recommendation has been made for the development of urban forestry as a means of mitigating some of the impacts in the urban areas, including capital Kingstown. The recommendation was made by Forestry Supervisor Joel Poyer, who was at the time addressing a workshop at the Fisheries Conference Room today, hosted by the Forestry Services Department, to discuss sustainable land use and other means of adapting to climate change. Reflecting on the past, Poyer said the capital city was once picturesque with greenery and lively rivers, but is now a concrete jungle, and if measures are not taken to protect what's left of the environment, it can be destroyed. Hence the reason an urban forestry development is urgently needed.
All we see in around Kingston is big construction building going up, but we hardly seen any green area being put in place. There's an aspect of forestry that is called urban forestry. This is the care and management of forests within the urban environment. Urban forestry advocates the role of trees as a critical part of the urban infrastructure. And we need to understand that, especially those planners. When they are planning for construction, they do not think that greenery or trees can be part of the infrastructure. But if you look in the more developed countries, most of the time, this has to be part of your development.
Poyer said along with the aesthetic benefits, an urban forest can have social, economic and environmental impacts.
Importantly, reduce the quick runoff when we have heavy downpours of water, and it acts as an umbrella, capturing the raindrops and slowly allowing it to fall to the ground, thus reducing its impact on the soil or concrete. Social benefits. It provides shades from the sun, reduce the temperature, create biodiversity, and most of all, it is the aesthetic, the beauty, the scenery, help to change the harsh drab of just concrete that we will see. Economic benefits. It reduces fuel costs, increase the value of area, create employment, and it can encourage investment.
Director of Forestry, Fitzgerald Providence, said while there is a lot of focus on the impacts of climate change, equal importance must be placed on managing the natural environments in the urban setting. Providence warned that the changing environment has food and national security implications.
Is the invasive species that come with changing environment and as our world become more globalized. It impacts on food security. Seasonal changes in our fruiting and patterns can impact on our food security. And also it's national security, because climate change can cause movement of persons. I remember one of the lessons I learned in history from Dr. Earl Kirby, one of the persons who was one of my mentors as I grew into the environment field. He said, well, you know, the Kalinago and those persons probably moved with the El Nino or the La Nina effect. That's when they migrated to the other parts of from South America up to the Caribbean islands, seeing that impact of climate causing persons to move.
With just over a month before the end of the 2019 hurricane season, members of the public have been told now is not the time to let their guard down, and that they need to stop being complacent about the threat of tropical storms or hurricanes to SVG by saying the country is blessed and the storm will pass by. On his Law and You program here on SVG-TV last evening, Queen's Counsel Parnell Campbell said that Vincentians should always be prepared for every tropical storm or depression that threatens the country. With the passage of Tropical Storm Karen over the island on Sunday, Campbell thanked God for keeping everyone safe. However, he advised persons to remove all overhanging trees from their houses to avoid great damage or loss of life.
Driving around St. Vincent on the mainland, it isn't obvious to me that people really understand the danger posed by trees which overhang their houses or parts of their houses. Because you still see a lot of trees standing right over dwelling houses. And you say, good Lord, if those trees should be blown down, they're going to fall right on top of the houses. For years now, I have been warning and pleading with people, where you have big trees, I'm not talking about a small fruit tree that might, damage a piece of galvanized and not do anything serious. I'm talking about massive trees at a higher elevation overlooking a dwelling house, such that if the tree is blown over, it has nowhere to go except on top of the house. You have a dangerous situation.
Campbell also urged persons who have trees hanging over their neighbor's property to remove them to avoid the consequences of the law if the trees cause damage to the property.
Unreasonable neighbors who refuse to heed the plea of somebody whose house is threatened by the neighbor's trees. I'm appealing to you to do something about it, because if you are asked to deal with an overhanging tree, and you refuse, and somehow that tree falls and damages the neighbor's house, the neighbor who asked you will have a cause of action against you in the High Court. And you can find yourself paying a lot of money in damages for having willfully refused to deal with a threat when it was drawn to your attention.